Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but today we are going to be having a look at building some model baseboards from Grainge and Hodder. Now this is for my new model railway project, which is based on Outwell Basin Station on the Wisbeach and Upwell tramway. It's the original terminus, the line, before it was extended all the way to Upwell, and most people don't seem to cover it. It's Outwell Village. Alan Price has built a very successful model of, and very beautiful model. If you haven't seen it, then keep an eye out for it. It's still out on the exhibition circuit, despite being a few years old. Quite a few years old, actually. And yes, fantastic model of the Wisbeach and Upwell Railway. But anyway, I digress. Today we are building these baseboards. What you see on the screen is what arrives as two 900mm by 600mm baseboard kits, and the leg supports for 3 sets of legs. The idea being you have a set of legs on either end and a central one in the middle which supports both baseboards. Hope that makes sense. So you'd have a single standalone baseboard, and then the second one dovetails off the first one, so you only need one set of legs. But anyway, that is it. So that said, we'll get on and see how the build process goes. So here we are. As I say, you've got your baseboards here, you've got some legs, and you've got a nice set of instructions. And first thing I will say is this is very well packaged. Now, I have had a laser cut baseboard kit from Scale Model Scenery before. That's what Friday Bridge uses. But this is actually part of a modular railway, so the idea was we're all using the same Grainge and Hodder boards. You could either opt for the 900 by 600 or the 1200 by 600, and you could go for any multiple number of boards. And my first plan was to go for two 1200. Then I drew out my track plan and everything that I wanted to do, and it was just going to be a fictional thing. Decided that it's way too big, so ordered up to 900 by 600s instead, and then went, actually I could use this with Friday Bridge at home if I'm clever. It wasn't until I then went and measured it out and realised that it's not actually prototypically anywhere near long enough for what I want. And this is going to have a run round siding, but it can't be used. Well, with a caveat, it can be used, but I have to note how long the siding is for usability purposes, so people don't try and run a train in there to allow another one to go past and realise that it's not long enough. But that later date, we'll come back to the track plan, possibly at the end of this video if it's not too long, or we may visit it in a separate video when we start to actually do scenery and lay track and all that good stuff. But yeah, right now, as you can see, I'm just separating all the parts out. I mean, there must have been a quarter of a roll of masking tape gone into this thing. And yes, masking tape's not that expensive. Certainly, as I would imagine, they get through quite a lot of it, so they probably buy in bulk. But yeah, there is a heck of a lot of it. As you can see, I'm still trying to work out all the different parts, how this is connected together. I probably would have used Stanley blade had I realised it would be necessary. And so, there we go. That is the entire kit unpackaged and laid out. So just a single sheet here of instructions for building everything and another sheet for building the leg support. Now it's interesting, well not interesting, it's important, should I say, to point out right here that you do have to supply your own legs. It gives you advice on what kind of square timber to use for the legs, but it allows you to choose your own heights, and also structurally you're probably going to want something a bit more solid than laser cut wood for your legs. Alright, just a quick look at the instructions. See that start out with these longer parts with the holes, and just move the tops out the way. We won't need those for a while yet. And even now, yeah, there's so much tape, and probably could have built it all up using the amount of masking tape, but we will glue it. However, you'll see that for a start I like to do a dry run, especially as I haven't built these particular baseboards before, and the instructions are fairly straightforward. However, it's always advisable to do a dry run first. You can always come back and glue it up, or as I did on the second board, glued it as I went, and you end up with a nice solid box at the end of it. As you can see, there's two different types of shorter board here. Pop out those spacers. So what we want is the middle ones, which as you can see have a slot, whereas these end ones are purposely marked on the end, and I'll come back to that in a little while why we have those marks. But what we need is one of these long straights and two of the shorter ones, and they just simply slot together, which unfortunately you can't see there because it goes out of shot. And where I had to position the phone camera for this, I couldn't see what you were seeing. As you can see, it just slots together and makes a cross section. And picking up the instructions, the next thing is to place two of these flat panels on the top, and it just kind of locks it all in square, or at least that's the theory. truly getting it square once you get all the end and side panels on. This is just a simple slot in, well, it's simple. It's a bit tight, but you don't want it loose. And they simply go in like that. And that A, adds support to the cross section, and B, as I say, just squares it up a little bit. When you come to place your top boards on, that will give extra support as well for that. Just a little bit more removal of tape, and we can move in to the first side. And again, second side just simply slots in at this stage. Now if you're confident in what you're doing, you could actually apply the glue now, and certainly if you're using PVA glue, something like that, it will take a few minutes to set up, and in that time you'll have got the end pieces in place and have it all squared away before the glue actually goes off and forms a solid bond. And there you go. That is your base structure. It's quite simple, doesn't it? And I have to admit, it really is. Now, I would say that there's nothing more complicated or better on this baseboard over the scale model scenery ones. It pretty much the same kind of concept, slot and tab construction. And I say, if you're confident in what you're doing, you could glue as you go along. I opted to do a dry run first purely because, as I say, I hadn't done it before, and if you do get it wrong on a dry run, realise that something's upside down, back, front, or whatever, like I have here, then you've got time to change it, get it all perfect before assembling. Again, as you can see on this flat top board, there is 3 lines, and significance of those lines is they've been put on there personally by Grainge and Hodder for us, and they are for lining up the track centre and the 2 rails, and that is universal across all of the modular boards, and it will allow the tracks to meet up perfectly when we're finished. So big thumbs up to Grainge and Hodder for agreeing to do that for us, and it didn't charge any extra, which was very good of them. And to be fair, there's quite a number of boards being ordered for this project, so you know, a few minutes of adding laser etched lines, because of course they're not cut, they're just lightly etched into the wood, would make little difference to them. But as I say, it just means that when we come to build the whole modular railway together next springtime, it should, in theory, line up. And there we go. Got panel on. And nice simple build. Just like that. So, fast forward to a few hours later, and I have 2 boards assembled, and they are all nicely glued together now. So, nice solid box, which means we have to move on to the final stage, which is reinforcing pads. So you have 4 of the larger rectangular ones and 2 square ones, which the 2 smaller square ones just slot in to the middle of the board. Now you will need M6 bolts to attach these boards, A to the legs or B to other boards. Now I don't have all my M6 boards here, M6 bolts, sorry, here. But I do have a few, and I'll show you some alternatives if you don't have M6 bolts. As you can see, they just lay in like so. And yes, I am aware that I left my bolts underneath that single pad there. But the reason for these is just so when you tighten the boards together, it just gives you that extra bit of thickness and essential kind of crush zone without damaging the boards. As you can see here, just going to use some Copydex glue to assemble these. Now you can use PVA, you can use pretty much anything. Wood glue. Now I have PVA, but unfortunately I didn't realise I had watered all of it down for scenery purposes. I didn't have any original strength. So that's why I'm shooting some Copydex here, because it would set up a bit quicker than my PVA. And Copydex, a bit more expensive, but fantastic stuff. Apart from the smell, it's quite a strong smell. And you see I've put the glue on both sides of this first panel. Then I realised that I wouldn't actually have to do that. So I'm just knocking out that centre circle, and the reason for that is you have 2 thicknesses. I have some additional ones which are slightly thicker disc size, and what this allows is for me to have them extend out beyond the board and then leave a gap on the adjoining board, but it just gives an additional kind of affixing point. So here you see I have some clear tube which happened to be 6mm in outer diameter, and you can use that to line up your boards. Just a bit of a burr on the other end, so turn that around. And there you go. Now you don't have to leave those in for very long. They will kind of set up fairly quickly. And yeah, essentially it's just a case of rinse and repeat for the other 5 reinforcing boards. So here we are. After a bit of speed upgrade, you can see I've used a 6mm drill piece as one of the anchor points, and we've got some more of the clear tubing on the other 3 large panels, and there we go. So we've got all our smaller, we just call them discs. I don't know what else to call them. And you may realise that we still have these, and all they are is you simply snap them apart, and they're kind of triangular reinforcing boards if you need them. They're not necessary, you don't have to use them. They are a nice tight fit, but they would simply sit in like so, and then you could run a bead of glue underneath. If you do decide to use these though, I would say if you have any points or anything, track beads that are going to come down through the board, you want to get those in place before adding any of these reinforcing struts. See, they just slide in like so, and you do get a few of these. There aren't enough to do the entire board, so just bear that in mind, and also where the reinforcing boards are in the corner, you would have to trim down. But with that said, that is the end of this build and this video. Hopefully if you've enjoyed it, found it informational, and yeah, it gives you an insight into how to build these Grainge and Hodder boards. Anyway, with that said, that is going to be the end for this video. Thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch. Maybe hit that like button, drop a word or two down in the comments. I'm not creating videos as regularly as I used to, admittedly, but it all helps if I do ever decide to return on a more regular basis. But anyway, with that said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.